Lego, man, I gotta be real with you. Sure, the KK videos are cool, but you're really milking this topic, aren't you? And come on, the worst thing people can do is lie. So I'm gonna say, yeah, we're milking this because everybody's talking about it until we get ourselves a conclusion as to whether or not the Habs are going to match or not match the Kotkaniemi offer sheet. This is all that is on anybody's minds in the hockey world at the moment. So we're gonna be talking about a different aspect of the KK offer sheet saga here today. We already spoke yesterday about Nick Suzuki and his entire response to the offer sheet itself and how he's not really holding it against KK and he just wants Mark Bergevin to find a way to keep KK on the team. But today we're talking about the replacements. How everything goes down if the Montreal Canadiens just say, alright, screw it, KK 6.1 for a season with a 6.1 qualifying offer next year when he's still an RFA. Screw that, we'll take the first and the third. Here we go, Carolina, take your player and be on your way. How exactly do the Montreal Canadiens look if they go that route? And particularly, what could be done to address that kind of situation? Because if you take a look at the Montreal Canadiens and their center core in the playoffs last year, they went to the finals with a center core of Philippe Danault, Nick Suzuki, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and then you had like Eric Stahl bouncing around in there. You had a few other guys in that last spot, but for the most part, it was Suzuki, Danault, KK that were big movers in this playoff run. Now, you take a look at Philippe Danault. Hey, he's gone. He signed a contract with LA, and honestly, it's kind of funny how he is making less money per season than KK would be because KK's making 6.1, Philippe Danault making 5.5. This story gets more ridiculous moment by moment, doesn't it? And you have yourselves KK, who is also gone as well, assuming the Canadiens do not match the offer sheet. You lost Eric Stahl in free agency, or at least you didn't technically lose him. He is still unsigned at the time of me recording this piece of audio right here. But you got on Cedric Paquette instead. You have Jake Evans, you have Ryan Poehling, and you still have Suzuki, whose contract does indeed expire next year. And so you ask yourself, the Canadiens made the Stanley Cup Finals last season. Danault was an important part. KK, pretty important part too. Suzuki was a prime contributor, and we know that he's still sticking around. But if you take a look at last year and you say, alright, we're going from Suzuki, Danault, KK, Eric Stahl, Evans, a whole bunch of guys there, to this year, where you're projected to having Suzuki, Poehling, Evans, and Paquette. Is that a good enough follow-up for a team that made the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and, according to David Savard, are looking to go ahead and make it again and win the Cup this year? I'm not sure. And so, we have ourselves the insiders here on media appearances that have made their statements as to what they believe is going to go down with this KK offer sheet. Now, a big shout out, as always, to NHL Watcher on Twitter. Fantastic Twitter account. They tweet everything significant that happens in the media, and this is a fantastic tool for me because not only am I able to get the points across of what the insiders are saying, but it allows me to put the screenshots on the screen so you can follow along easier. So, this is what Habs insider Eric Engels said on Fan 590 about the KK offer sheet and what could happen. Right now, I think the most likely scenario is that they're going to let him walk to Carolina and replace him via a trade. I do happen to believe they have identified a primary target here, and it is Christian Dvorak out of Arizona. Now, a quick aside, hey, Christian Dvorak, that's a name we've spoken about here on the channel before. We made entire videos talking about how the Canadiens, the Red Wings, the Sens, a whole bunch of other teams have been interested in this Arizona Coyotes forward. A guy who was once one of the top CHL point producers alongside of Matthew Tkachuk and Mitch Marner. Christian Dvorak was a 2014 second-round pick who is a pretty capable two-way center. He's 25 years old, 6 feet 194, and he's making $4.45 million until 2025. Christian Dvorak, if you take a look at the numbers, hey, 31 points, 56 games last year. He's always been a consistent 30-point guy, but this season he did that in a significantly fewer amount of games played, not to mention the fact that, yes, his London Knights days were fantastic because he was with that stacked line. Either way, though, Christian Dvorak has been on an Arizona Coyotes team that has been looking to rebuild. They've been trading away a lot of valuable assets, they've been acquiring a lot of picks, they've been acquiring a lot of youth. And when it comes to the trade rumors that we had for guys like Ekman Larsson, for guys like Christian Dvorak as well, for the trades that they made where they took on dead salary, like Andrew Ladd and Shane Gostisbehere and whatnot, the biggest thing that the Arizona Coyotes have been really interested in adding onto their squad is draft picks. We've noted this the entire, past year and a half pretty much, but the Arizona Coyotes have kind of sucked with their drafting. Not because of the players they've chosen. Well, actually, one instance was, because of the player they chose. That pick was renounced. But they have had a whole bunch of other draft picks taken away because of violations and all that, trading away picks in the Taylor Hall swap and all that. It's not been fun for Arizona. And so now, you take a look at the rebuilding team that is the Arizona Coyotes and how exactly they're going about things when it comes to trading away valuable assets and getting draft picks in return. This is the deal here. Christian Dvorak is a pretty good top 6 center, and he could be a pretty good steal of a contract if he plays up to his potential. 4.45, in my opinion, is a good value contract for the player he is today, who is a top 6 capable center, but he is 25, he's signed till 2025, and he's got a lot more time to really showcase a little bit more in his game, in my opinion. So, when you hear that these teams, the Sens, the Red Wings, the Canadiens, are all interested in him, obviously, the Coyotes are likely asking for draft picks. And so, hearing that the Canadiens could see a Christian Dvorak trade pan out where it's like, okay, we'll just take the draft picks from Carolina instead and use those picks to trade for a Dvorak, in essence, you're trading away KK with an overpaid contract and an overpaid qualifying offer for next year for Christian Dvorak, who is locked until 2025. Elliot Friedman said a similar thing here on the 31 Thoughts podcast. I could see Montreal going to Arizona and saying, how would a first and a third be for Dvorak? Do we have the framework of a deal here? And in fact, just like the rest of the Canadiens fan base and honestly just NHL fan base too, this idea has really been picking up steam, which is why we're talking about it here today. Sticking over with NHL Watcher's Twitter account, and I say this all the time, but I love this Twitter account so much. They did a poll the other day that currently has 13 hours left at the time of recording this piece of audio. Who would you rather have if you're the Montreal Canadiens? Dvorak at 4.5 for 4 years, or KK at 6.1 at 1 year? You also have to remember that KK has himself a qualifying offer next season, assuming there is no arbitration filed, that would start at $6.1 million a season, and that's kind of the ballpark that his next contracts are going to fall into. 77% of the 2,000 votes over here on Twitter say that they would rather have Dvorak at 4 years at 4.5 than KK for 1 year at 6.1. This is kind of what I'm getting at here. Sure, if you lose KK to the offer sheet and you use the compensation picks to trade him to Arizona for Christian Dvorak, you essentially gave up KK for Dvorak. One-on-one, maybe that's not enough right there. Maybe you'd say, oh, KK has a lot more potential, KK is better, whatever. But you would be taking a look at it from the perspective of KK being an RFA whose rights are still held with Montreal and who hadn't signed a contract yet. KK the way he is now, and KK with a 6.1 AAV salary that's going to take him until this year, and then a qualifying offer next year too, is a lot less valuable than what KK would normally be valued at if you were taking a look at the KK coming out of the bubble last year, or the KK that wrapped up 2021, or the KK that was even in the ballpark of the $2.2 million range, that in which Renaud Lavoie said NHL insiders were indicating should have been the KK price instead of 6.1. Do you want to fall into the trap here that the Carolina Hurricanes are setting out for yourselves by matching this offer sheet and screwing over the rest of your cap plans in the next few years? It would be okay if KK was a $6 million player, but he's not. This is what Brian Hayes said on TSN Overdrive on the KK offer sheet. There's no way he can match 6.1. He is not good enough. He is not ever going to be a superstar. He doesn't have it. There's nothing wrong with saying it. I know he went 3rd overall. He shouldn't have, but they drafted him based on positional need. And I don't know if anybody's going to go out there and say that Hayes is wrong. Sure, we know he can be good, but I'd been saying this ever since the 2018 draft that I don't know if KK was the right pick at 3rd. A long time ago in a space-time galaxy far, far away, I made a video reacting to the KK draft pick when it initially happened. I wasn't really a Habs fan back then, nor was I making Habs-centered videos, but I made that video because I was like, what the hell is going on here? You could see the like-to-dislike ratio in that video. It's not good. And all the comments are kind of pissing on me as well, so I'm going to take that with stride. Don't worry, it's not really going to affect me anyway, but that's kind of the sentiment that I've been feeling ever since the draft, and I always wanted this guy to be great. After the first year, we're like, yeah, Barkov. Look at the Barkov comparisons right there. Fantastic. We all wanted him to be a 3rd overall caliber guy because he was taken 3rd overall, and we wanted the Canadiens to not be looking a little bit silly here. But now, it's a few years later, he hasn't really been living up to the 3rd overall standards. He's getting overpaid by Carolina on an offer sheet that was memed because they were being petty. and there are options here to say, all right, we have the option of either getting an overpriced KK or just getting the compensation picks, trading it to Arizona, getting a $4 million player for 4 more years who is arguably at the same level that KK is right now anyway. So, talk to me in the comments, what do you think? Dvorak, Arizona, KK compensation picks, a trade? Talk to me in the comments, what do you think? If you enjoyed this video, Trolls 99. And bye.